So obviously that title is a bit misleading. I couldn't have possibly watched every single release from 2020 even if I wanted to. With over 20,000 films released this year, that's roughly 1,250 days worth of content. I still managed to see 333 films this year. You can consider this video your cinematic guide through the strange year. Whilst you can see everyone else compile their top 10s, I'm not about that baby stuff. Top 333 baby, here we go! Timecodes are linked below if you want to skip around to what interests you, so let's do this! Here's a quick list of films I haven't seen in time for this video that were 2020 releases. Promising Young Woman, Pieces of a Woman, although that's coming out in January anyways, Bill and Ted Face the Music, News of the World, and Solar. But that's another 2021 release. Why am I even bothering with this? I'm sure that a lot of people have concerns about me not including certain films, but leave them down in the comments below and I might check them out at some point. But let's move on. There's a list to my overall ranking of all 333 movies linked below over on Letterboxd. Go check that out if you want to see that right away. Let's get into Netflix. Netflix has quickly become one of the biggest players in film exhibition. They got almost 200 million paying users and what feels like an endless amount of cash to both produce and license films for the international audience in the comfort of their own home. Over 250 films were produced by the streaming service alone this year. So is it true that Netflix is still quantity over quality? Well, I watched 76 Netflix features and documentaries. Admittingly, 2020 wasn't as strong as the Uncut Gems, Marriage Stories, Irishman and Klauses from last year. We still got at least one film that managed to match those films. Charlie Kaufman's I'm Thinking of Ending Things might not be for everyone, but I loved it, especially on the rewatch. And not like the required rewatch many felt that like Tenet needed, more in the sense of uncovering new layers in a great narrative. I'd even go as far to say that it's way more accessible than David Fincher's Mank. And I myself, as a film major who literally just took a course in early film history this fall, I was kind of prone to appreciate Mank a bit more than the average Netflix user. And I also had some other issues with the film, so it doesn't really rank that high comparatively in the rest of Fincher's filmography for me as well. A few more features that I'd recommend are I'm No Longer Here, telling the harrowing story of a 17-year-old Mexican illegal immigrant in the US while flashing back to the home he misses so much. Chadwick Boseman's last performance in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom is a great legacy to leave behind, as he's on tour to snatch up that Oscar for Best Lead. Boseman also starred in Spike Lee's The Five Bloods earlier this year in a minor role, but that's not a movie I really enjoyed. Especially Delroy Lindo's scene, and you know what I mean when you've seen it. The Five Bloods also had Jonathan Majors co-starring, an actor who I really loved in last year's Last Black Man in San Francisco, and he was also in this year's Lovecraft Country from HBO, but I won't get into TV in this video. He was also in Jungleland, an indie about two brothers involved in boxing, and Majors plays the bad guy. The movie wasn't great, but interesting to see him play an antagonist, as he's been cast in the Ant-Man and the Wasp sequel as Khan the Conqueror. The 40-year-old version blends documentary filmmaking with semi-autobiographical drama, and it's gorgeous in black and white. The Trial of the Chicago 7 might not have even made my top 50, but a lot of people seem to have enjoyed this second directorial feature from Aaron Sorkin. It's a crowd pleaser and therefore completely lacks the nuance and depth I would prefer in a court drama like this. I can't complain though, as we got Steve McQueen's Mangrove as part of the Small Axe film series just a few months later, but more on that in a bit. Let me list some more films that may have went under your radar and you should check out. His House, The Call, 37 Seconds, Nobody Knows I'm Here, and The Platform. These are all international features, or at least focus on mostly non-English characters and tell different stories that are really worth checking out. We also got Vampires vs. the Bronx, The Half of It, Enola Holmes, and Extraction, which were all nice distractions. Nothing crazy, but worth a watch. My favorite documentaries on Netflix were My Octopus Teacher, which featured an intimate bond between a human and an octopus that made me tear up, as well as Dick Johnson is Dead, a satire documentary from Kristen Johnson about a 86-year-old father who she's trying to immortalize with this documentary. as well as Athlete A, a more down-to-the-book doc about the USA gymnastics sexual abuse of minors. Yikes. For anyone who's thinking, where's the social dilemma? That movie made me rethink how much I use social media. I have to say, did you really need a poorly made documentary to remind you of that? Like, come on, are you serious? And while we're on unpleasant stuff, let's get it out of the way. Family movies. They weren't great to see on Netflix. The animated Over the Moon was sweet, but felt a bit hollow to me, and I found the style kinda ugly, but at least it cracked my top 150. All the following movies are on 240 or below. Alright, we got Jingle Jangle, Go, The Willoughbys, SpongeBob, whatever the movie was, We Can Be Heroes, The Sleepover, The Princess Switch, Switched Again, and Pets United. I really do feel sorry for having to rank these so low. I mean, you and I should really feel sorry for the kids that had to sit through this garbage while their parents were working in their home offices, but never mind. But speaking of garbage, let's talk about movies you should avoid while browsing Netflix, like Old Ladies Without Face Masks, The Babysitter, Killer Queen, Holiday, Work It, Dangerous Lies, Spencer Confidential, The Wrong Missy, Earth and Blood, A Fall from Grace, The Last Days of American Crime, Coffee and Kareem, The Last Thing He Wanted, Love Guaranteed, Airplane Mode, Mrs. Serial Killer, The Kissing Booth 2, Ghost Stories, and most of all, the worst movie of 2020, Desperados. Consider yourself lucky if you didn't get a bingo playing shitty movie Netflix recommends to me. I have. So many times. Okay, that leaves only 257 more movies to cover. And I didn't even touch on the average middle field of blah movies on Netflix. But let's move on. Now, I won't be going through the services one by one like Prime Video, Disney Plus, Apple TV Plus, and HBO Max, but instead, we will group the films that fit together similar to what an award show would do, I guess, but better. These are the movies that made audiences say, huh, that's kind of similar to our current situation. And the nominees are The New Mutants, Save Ourselves. I mean, the title says it all. #Alive. It's a Korean zombie film. The Platform. Let's be real, your favorite cafe probably already closed down because they didn't get enough support from the government. So I guess there's a similarity there. Spontaneous. Kids are dying in this one and they don't know how to fix it. Host. It's literally a movie filmed during quarantine using Zoom. 76 Days and Totally Under Control. 2 documentaries about COVID. And of course, who could forget Songbird? I haven't even seen this exploitative piece of trash that calls itself a movie yet, but anyways, let's get to the winner, and the winner is the alien eating toilet paper in Shaun the Sheep Farmageddon. Yay! Now let's move on to movies that I saw this year but won't come out until 2021. We got Nomadland, One Night in Miami, The Father, Minari, Shiva Baby, 9 Days, and Gunda. There's probably more, but who can say anything certain about release dates at this point? All 7 of these films are in my top 20 of the year, so I'll hold off from talking about them too much, and I will bring them up closer to their individual releases again on this channel. Now, 2020 did have a few pleasant surprises, and these are the movies that you might have heard of but weren't too sure if they're worth checking out. So let me tell you that they are. We got Gunda, Shiva Baby, Caught in the Net, The Climb, St. Francis, Joseph, Shithouse, The Wolf of Snow Hollow, and Spontaneous. I was really surprised by Spontaneous specifically. It looked like such a terrible, cliched film, but it was kind of entertaining. But my highlights here are definitely Gunda and Shiva Baby, but again, I will talk about them in the future. So let's move on to an emotional category. So these are the movies I ugly cried at the most. Listen, I cry in movies a lot, okay? So here are the movies that made me shed a few tears. We got Never Rarely Sometimes Always, the title-giving scene made me cry. One Night in Miami, the ending. Sound of Metal, the ending again. The Painter and the Thief. Honestly, pretty much everything was super beautiful and touching. Welcome to Chechnya, the unmasking I'm lacking the words right now. It left me speechless. In addition to that, The Father, 9 Days, Joseph, I Carry You With Me, and Onward. Wait, hold on. How can I forget? Bad Boys for Life! Man, that movie was so beautiful. But on a more serious note, this is probably a tie between Never Really Sometimes Always in the title giving scene. Every time I watch the film moved me to tears. I honestly can't think of another performance that I connected with as strongly. And the other film being Onward, which might be a surprise to a lot of people. But let's just say that I related to Bali a bit too much. But my tears are usually a sign of quality, so nothing outside of my top 50 has managed to make me cry. So let's move on to a lighter topic. It's still about crying, but this time from laughter. So these movies got the most laughs out of me. We got Minari, Shiva Baby, Palm Springs, Shithouse, Gajillionaire, The Kid Detective, Soul, The 40-Year-Old Version, and Borat, subsequent movie film. So Minari is obviously more of a drama than it is a comedy, but the comedic moments were so pleasant and stood out that I just wanted it to mention here again. So go check it out when it comes out whenever in 2021. Shiva Baby has lots of awkward, almost US The Office-like humor mixed with the Uncut Gems audio editing, and I loved it. Shithouse is more relatable than it is funny, but I enjoyed it a lot. Gajillionaire is so odd and out there. It might not work for everyone, but I certainly loved it. The Kid Detective hit me out of nowhere, and it had excellent editing to support the recurring comedic bits. Soul had a cat, and cat equals funny. The 40-Year-Old Version had such a bleak and raw humor that doesn't sacrifice its characters for a joke. And Borat 2 had some of the best bits of the year. Carried on the shoulders of Maria Bakalova, probably had the funniest scene of 2020, the cupcake scene. That shit was fire. But also the opposite of fire. But anyways, I gotta give this to Palm Springs because that movie managed to consistently make me laugh from beginning to end. It deserves the big haha award of 2020. We can all agree that 2020 sucked, but hear me out. In what other year have we ever gotten 5 feature-length films from a filmmaker like Steve McQueen, director of films like 12 Years a Slave, Shame, and Hunger? We can add another 5 to a list of great films. It's interesting to see the continuous blending between TV and films as we move deeper and deeper into the streaming era. Small Axe is an anthology series set in the UK, telling the stories of black people in various situations. All episodes/films are available now on Prime Video, by the way. My personal favorite was Red, White and Blue with John Boyega in his best role yet as Leroy Logan, who decides to join the force to change the racist system from within. Lovers Rock is an absolute blast. It's basically just a night out, music, love and a bit of drama. It's honestly the perfect hangout movie. Mangrove is basically the better Trial 7 without all the oversimplified plot conveniences and the lack of authenticity. And Letitia Wright and Sean Parks both give great performances. And I also urge everyone to read up on the Trial's history as well as the Mangrove's legacy. Education is about a 12-year-old boy sent off to a school for kids with special needs and tackles the unofficial segregation that prevented lots of young black kids access to good education. And then finally Alex Wheatle, which was the only film I didn't really enjoy that much from Small Axe. That might be because I don't know anything about Wheatle other than what was shown in the film, but nonetheless, it's the weakest in the bunch in an anthology series that is really worth checking out. Let's talk about the best international features. I will go through them from worst to best. We got Apples from Greece, we got The Call from South Korea, we got Jumbo from France, we got Weathering With You from, I believe, Japan, we got I Carry You With Me from Mexico, we got Sweat from Poland, we got And Then We Dance from Georgia, I'm No Longer Here from Mexico, There's No Evil from Iran, and Another Round from Denmark. Both I'm No Longer Here and I Carry You With Me tell stories of immigration from the Mexican border and are really striking visually. That's something I also felt with the Polish film Sweat that covered social media and its influence on influencers, terrible name by the way, the best. I also enjoyed how free-flowing the camera was, and the director, who was available for a Q&A after the screening, mentioned that he shot without much of a shot list and just followed the action along. It's really impressive how it worked to both add authenticity without taking you out of your suspension of disbelief. There's a story behind the making of the Iranian film There's No Evil that is probably equally as riveting and interesting as the 4 short films in the movie itself. Much like There's No Evil and Then We Dance packs a big statement for LGBTQ+ people in Georgia. And then finally another round. The new film from the Hunt director Thomas Vinterberg. No, not the one from 2020. But let's get that out of the way, the movie sucked. And all the satiric attempts of displaying a political divide between the bizarrest extreme just didn't work out. But back to another round. Mads Mikkelsen will keep people talking about that final scene for a long time. Just look at the logline and tell me that that's not a great Nordic film. 4 high school teachers launch a drinking experiment, upholding a constant low level of intoxication. But let's move on to the best documentary. I watched a total of 36 documentaries in 2020. 2 were about COVID. 76 Days shows the initial outbreak of the virus in Wuhan and Totally Under Control shows just how the US can become the best at literally anything, even COVID cases. I also saw 2 docs about Taylor Swift, which is kind of ironic because I don't like her music, or at least don't listen to it. Miss Americana has more of an overview of her whole career, and Folklore is a BTS look around her album that she recorded and released during lockdown. Another BTS doc on Netflix, Road to Roma, actually was my highest rated film for a few weeks at the start of the year, but by the time I attended the Zurich Film Festival in September, the number of documentaries increased significantly. Highlights were Time, The Dissident, and Caught in the Net. The latter was actually a social experiment with the goal of catching pedophiles that worked shockingly well, and it was honestly quite horrifying. My 3 favorites of the year and the festival were Gunda, a black and white observation of farm animals that has the best last shot of this year in my opinion. Welcome to Chechnya tells the story of LGBTQ people in the notoriously homo and transphobic Russia, whose leaders basically let homophobes torture and kill without repercussions. The doc also uses an interesting visual AI to hide the refugees' identities, and wow, it is really powerful. And then finally, my favorite, The Painter and the Thief. This movie shouldn't work at all, and I honestly believe that the less you know about it, the better. But the premise is basically a guy who's like high and drugged up out of his mind, who steals an oil painting from an artist. He then gets caught, and the painter and the thief become unlikely friends. It's so weird, but it's also one of the most beautiful things that I've watched in 2020. Shoutouts go out to Athlete A, Dick Johnson's Dead, Boy State, My Octopus Teacher, and City So Real, which was more of a documentary series than a film, but I included in here anyways. It's about the Chicago election process and is really interesting. So let's move on to the best A24 film of 2020. And the nominees are, hold on, Green Knight, no. Saint Ma, no, also. Minar, that's 2021. Sola? No. Alright, I guess we got Lovers Rock, Boy State, and First Cow. I like Sofia Coppola, but Lovers Rock just didn't do it for me. Boy State was great, but I honestly don't want to watch a movie about politics at the moment. And First Cow was great. I loved it. Best A24 film of 2020 goes to First Cow. Let's move on to the best Pixar movie. And the winner is, drumroll, Forky asked a question. What is cheese? But no, seriously, it's Onward. No, of course it's Soul. And if you want to hear my whole thoughts on the film, Callie and I actually did an extensive review over on my podcast, the Quiet on Set podcast. The episode is actually out by the time this video releases, so go check it out if you want to hear my full-on spoiler thoughts for Soul. But what was the best animated feature? It's definitely not SpongeBob, it's not Ni no Kuni, or The Croods, A New Age, The Wallabies, Scoob, Trolls World Tour, A Whisker Away, Superman, Man of Tomorrow, Over the Moon, a Shaun and the Sheep movie, Farmageddon, Justice League Dark Apocalypse War, or Onward. I constantly remind myself by listing these how mental it is to just watch this many movies. But yes, onward to the contenders for best animated film of 2020. We got Weathering With You, Giuseppe, Soul, and Wolfwalkers. And my pick, surprisingly, actually goes to Wolfwalkers. I'm a sucker for gorgeous 2D hand-drawn animation. Although I haven't seen other films from this studio like Breadwinner and Song of the sea, I have to give a slight edge to Wolfwalkers over Soul. It's out on Apple TV Plus, but Soul is great too. I was just a bit let down that the rather adult themes of regret and existentialism had to be packaged into a film that also a 5-year-old wouldn't get too bored by. Without spoiling, I wasn't big on the ending either, and some of the repeating imagery towards the end was also a bit too Pixar formulaic and tear-jerking in a way that I noticed they were trying to pull the emotional strings, and I felt a slight bit of manipulation coming from there, and which was just a bit too much for me. Those were my biggest concerns with the movie though. There's a lot of good stuff in there, and if I had to choose between 2 cat transformations in 2020, I would definitely choose Soul over Wonder Woman 1984. Which leads us nicely into the next category. This is the least worst blockbuster that somehow still got released in 2020. We got Tenet, Mulan, Wonder Woman 1984, and The New Mutants. And the winner is Tenet. I'm sorry, I had to speak up. Obviously you didn't hear me there. Maybe you need subtitles. Alright, do we really have to talk about the other ones? I mean, New Mutants was stuck in production hell longer than all of us combined in quarantine. Usually that's a clear sign for a quality product, right? Let's move away from the big films that everyone has heard of to the small indie films you've never heard of. We got Banana Split, The Truth, Calm with Horses, Farewell Amore, A Good Woman is Hard to Find, The Disciple, Swallow, Apples, Black Bear, and Shiva Baby. Shiva Baby really deserves to win this one, but it's not even out yet. So I don't know if it's fair to put it in here. Let me know if you've heard of any of these in the comments. They're all worth checking out for a variety of reasons. I'm going to highlight Swallow, resting on the nice 69th spot on my list as an atmospheric thriller with body horror elements about a woman who can't stop herself from eating inedible objects. Also, Black Bear is fun, but I don't want to spoil it for anyone, so it's definitely worth checking out, but the less you know beforehand, the better. Finally, let's take a look at my top 20 of 2020. If you somehow haven't gathered enough material to overfill your watch list with, like I always do, I currently am sitting on 2,700 films in mind, by the way, then I hope this ranked countdown will help you find the goodies that will make your cinematic heart beat faster. Number 20, we got Gunda. Number 19, Mangrove. Number 18, Wolfwalkers. Number 17, Palm Springs. Number 16, There Is No Evil. Number 15, Lovers Rock. Number 14, 9 Days. Number 13, Red, White and Blue. Number 12, Another Round. Number 11, City So Real. Number 10, The Father. Number 9, Nomadland. Number 8, Welcome to Chechnya. Number 7, Minari. Number 6, The Painter and the Thief. Number 5, Shiva Baby. Number 4, Sound of Metal. Number 3, One Night in Miami. Number 2, I'm Thinking of Ending Things. And number 1, my favorite movie of 2020, Never Rarely, Sometimes Always. A list of all 333 films is also linked below. I would recommend roughly the first 100 films on that list. This year certainly wasn't easy for anyone, but what I do appreciate is communities coming together to share their passions. This year marked my first time at a press screening, quickly followed by an avalanche of screeners and virtual festivals in the fall. I even attended 2 in-person film festivals this year, one in January and the other one at the end of September. I created a small community with my film student friends and started a weekly podcast. So what I'm trying to say is that this might be just the loneliest time in a lot of people's lives, mine included. But it doesn't have to be. Yes, there is a shameless plug coming to join our Discord. We talk about movies on there daily, and maybe also consider tuning into the Quiet on Set podcast. Also crossed 2,000 logged films on Letterboxd recently, and with 2021 on the horizon came the obligatory New Year's goals that I will most likely abandon halfway through January. But here they are anyways. I want to start a weekly show on here spanning all the way through 2021, where we go through 52 years of films starting in 1969 all the way going up to 2020. A list of all the movies that I'll be covering on that show will be linked linked below. And I also want to produce at least 52 episodes of the Quiet on Set podcast. I also want to reach 1,000 subscribers on this channel by 2022. And I also want to write full Letterboxd reviews for every 2021 release. And I guess watch about 250 films released in 2021. Not total. Yeah, I'm not getting less crazy. I'm getting more crazy, but maybe a little bit less crazy with the amount of crazy that I've gotten in this year, if that makes sense. But thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. Check out the Quiet on Set podcast and maybe consider joining the Discord. That is it from me. See you soon.